Hi everyone, I quite like it in my kitchen. I have way better lighting here, so I think I'm gonna start filming from here. Please excuse me if I seem foggy or a little bit sinusy. I'm actually recovering from COVID and I have an ear infection. Yeah, I'm quite in the wars right now. And great timing too, seeing as Christmas is like a week away, so hopefully I feel better by then. Given the second time I've had COVID, it peaked after 24 hours and now I'm feeling much better, so that's great. It's honestly the ear infection that's doing me in. I can't hear a thing. Everything just kind of sounds quite muffly, so it's, yeah, kind of annoying. Speaking of annoying, today's video is about the pet peeves that we experience as ADHDers. This is going to be a really light-hearted, fun video as we approach the end of the year, so it's not all that universal. If you relate to it, you relate to it. If you don't, you don't. There's no hard and fast rules, but let me know if you relate to these. When I go for a walk, there's generally a reason why I'm going for a walk. I don't tend to like going for a walk for no reason, but I do actually force myself to walk every day after dinner because it's my exercise. But when I'm on a mission, when I have a place to go to and there is somebody slow in front of me, it's a massive pet peeve. It's a pet peeve for more than one reason. The first one clearly is because they're going slow and I need to be somewhere. The second reason is because I find it awkward to pass them, because it's like almost as though you're overtaking someone in a passing lane. You kind of anticipate, are they going to speed up? Who's going to be the one to come in first place in the end? At least that's in the back of my mind. So it's kind of like this awkward, who's going to be the one in the front in the end? And does that mean I'm still going to have to stay behind them walking at a pace that I don't want to go at? Does anyone else think this way, or is it just me? Because it sounds kind of weird when it comes out of my mouth. I guess it kind of frustrates me that when you're actually on a mission, you'd like to think that the person you're about to overtake would understand that you're walking at a different pace. I do that when someone is walking at a faster pace than me or they're running. I'll always move to the side to let them pass. But in my experience, not everyone has treated me this way. When I used to live next to a high school and I used to walk my son to his kindergarten, used to push him in the pushchair, I found that many of the school students would not exercise any kind of awareness of who's walking around them. So oftentimes I'd be stuck behind these big groups of people just walking at a snail's pace. And look, I could say, excuse me, that's perfectly fine. But again, it comes back to that awkwardness. I'm just a bottle of anxiety, aren't I? Sound like a weirdo. So irritating sounds is probably the biggest one for me. And I'm actually kind of currently experiencing that now with my blocked ears and my ear infection. All I can hear right now is muffling, and it's incredibly irritating because the sounds that currently fill up the environment are not fully formed. It's almost as though you've stuck your fingers in your ears and you're just walking around like that all day. It's really irritating. I mean, I can't even really hear myself speak properly right now. Like I can hear myself within my body, but the sound that's coming out and then coming back in again, it's just not there. But on another note, there are other sounds that absolutely irritate me. One of those being ASMR. I honestly can't stand it. I think that maybe I have misophonia because any kind of sound, and again, it's like kind of the opposite of this muffled sound that I'm experiencing now. Any sound that has a lot of emphasis on the treble is incredibly irritating. The part of ASMR that bothers me is hearing every kind of nuance within a sound. Another sound that irritates me is when people overpronounce the S's. What I mean is when someone pronounces it's very sharp and piercing. It's actually so bad that, say for instance, I'm watching something on YouTube or listening to a podcast. If an individual overpronounces the S's, I am very tempted to skip the video because it's that irritating. God, I sound like a real ass. If you do that, honestly, no shame on you. It's just in the ASMR kind of category where things are overpronounced, they are too trebly, if that makes sense. People who talk with their mouth full, this one can coincide with the misophonia element. I just don't like the sound of hearing food mush around a person's mouth while they're talking. Honestly, I don't think anyone particularly likes that. Sometimes I'll call up my mum, and for some reason she's always eating something that sounds like chips or a carrot. Sorry mum, if you're watching this, I'm throwing you under the bus, but it's just like you can hear everything. A ticking clock is another one, especially when you are trying to sleep and you can hear it tick away. At night, in order for me to be able to fall asleep, I need to know that everything's kind of in its spot. A ticking clock just kind of reminds me that I'm still awake and that time is indeed much long, and as somebody with insomnia, that's not the best space to be in. It's another irritating sound that could very easily be replaced with white noise or rain on the roof, which are sounds I love. Too many different noise sources filling up an environment is another one. I feel that I can get quite burnt out if there's like the TV going, people's phones going, kids either yelling or complaining, all of those kinds of things happening all at once. I'm the kind of person who likes either complete dead silence or just simply having one noise source that I can just wrap my head around. Having too many noise sources going all at once just provides my brain way too many things to think about all at once. And I really do notice them. Like, it's not as though I can drown out the other sounds so much. Even if I'm trying to focus on something that's in front of me or a noise source in front of me, one that I'm creating, I can hear everything else just as loud and clear. It's just really distracting. Like at work, for example, I worked in an office running social media and doing content creation for our family-run garden centre. And we had one of those buzzers that they often use in a dairy, or depending us we live, corner store. What else do they call them? I can't really think of any other names. Can't remember. What do you guys call them in Australia? I lived there for a bit. Who calls them a corner store? Is it Australia or the US? I don't know. But in New Zealand we call them dairies. As weird as that sounds. Anyway, that buzzer that would go off, bam, 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 bam. Every time a customer would come into the garden centre, that noise would go off, and it drove me absolutely batty. Like, I'm not even joking you. I had to try really hard to just put that irritation to the side for the sake of doing my job. Luckily, I think it irritated everyone else too, so they got rid of it. It's really frustrating, but I have to do this a lot just because of the state of my life and my husband's life. When we book appointments for the end of the day, whether they are in person or over the phone, it irritates me in the sense that I spend the whole entire day anticipating that phone call or that meeting. As an introvert, maybe this is an introvert pet peeve, I don't know, but as an introvert, I really have to prepare myself to face a social situation. I have to put that mask on and be professional Lex, if you will. And don't get me wrong, I'm quite good at it. I actually do appear to have great social skills, but it doesn't come without a lot of effort and a lot of overthinking too. And I think that is why there's so much anticipation, because I know that when I go into these situations, I'm going to overthink. It's interesting actually, because when I do, say for example, have a doctor's appointment, they always say how well spoken I am. Like my ADHD appointments, for example, when I first got my diagnosis, they were wondering whether I actually did have ADHD, because I can be very well articulate. And during these meetings that I've had with the psychiatrist, I always put my best foot forward and I know my shit. I just don't want there to be any kind of confusion or blind spots when I'm conversing with somebody. I want them to understand the message I'm trying to get across. So I well rehearse myself. But like I said, with that comes the overthinking, it comes the anticipation. It's something that I tend to think about throughout the whole day, and it's annoying because it takes me out of what I'm doing in the present. I also think it's what you get used to. So if you constantly have appointments every day, you'd be used to it. Because the last 6 years for me have been a stay-at-home mum role. I, of course, found myself quite isolated many times, so having the opportunity to go out and socialize, even if it's during a clinical situation, I had to really train myself to be okay with being in social situations. Information overload's a biggie for me, and I don't know if this one would be true for everyone with ADHD, because I know So many people are great with multitasking, but I'm not one of those people. In fact, if I have too many things I have to do at once, it's just incredibly overwhelming. I need one task at hand to focus on, but where this idea of mixing things up and having lots of things to do comes in to provide a sense of variety, it comes from get one task done, complete it, get the next task done, complete it. So instead of it all coming in one go, just spread it out and make sure, I can focus on one thing at a time. But the things that I need to do also have variety in them. That's gold for me. And I'm lucky that within my job, I can do that. So I'm not just sitting behind a desk. I'm also on site. I'll help my husband out with landscaping, which is great, because it's a lot of exercise and sunlight, and I get to go all around Auckland, while simultaneously I can do all my content creation while I'm on site as well. But the great part about it isn't just that there is variety, but that variety doesn't happen all in one go, to the sense that it's really overwhelming. I also find that if you give me too much information, like if there is too many things written down on a piece of paper for me to do, I'm just going to skim read and miss out maybe 80%. It happens with my kids' school a lot. They'll send me multiple newsletters all through the week, and I won't open all the emails because my email inbox is like, I don't know, I have 8,000 unread messages. So sometimes I miss the emails that the school sends me, but if they're sending me information that takes me 3 hours to read, I'm just gonna skip most of it. And then I'm gonna miss out on crucial information. If there is instructions or information that I'm needing to understand, having them in bullet points is going to be the best way for me to take that information in, because it's nice and clear, it's simple, it's something that I just won't skim past. I find perhaps that having things like YouTube shorts and reels on Instagram probably aren't the best thing for those of us with ADHD, because we have very short attention spans. I don't think this is going to be the best way for us to really practice at paying attention to something for more than 10 minutes at a time. The last one is catching me off guard. If I'm not prepared to deal with a new piece of information that's just come out of the blue, I'm probably going to get a little overwhelmed by it. A great example of this is having an incoming call, especially from an unknown number. I wonder if this is like a Gen Z thing, because I'm very aware that many Gen Zers don't like to answer the phone, yet they'd prefer texting. But no, this is something that I personally have always experienced. I find it much easier to send an email because I know that I can be incredibly thorough. I know that if I'm receiving an email from another person, that if there is information in there that I need to revisit, that I can simply do so. So I can go over details over and over and over again. And then I know that I can be accurate with it. If I get a phone call out of the blue, I'm very unprepared, and I know that I need to be 100% prepared to answer a phone call and to communicate effectively. I get frights really easily. A great example of this is when I'm in the shower and one of my kids or my husband kind of creeps up on me. I get a real big fright. What happens is that I'm so involved with what I'm doing in that particular situation. So my task is I'm having a shower, I'm washing myself, that it completely catches me off guard when something happens in the environment that's out of place, if that makes sense. There have been more times than not when someone's come into the bathroom while I'm having a shower, I scream. It's so over the top, it's ridiculous. I'm just gonna put it down to my sensitive nervous system, so there you go. I'm just sensitive. So anyway, you guys, could you relate to any of these points in this video? I hope you guys have a really great Christmas. I'll probably be back in the new year with a new set of videos. I've got some sponsorships coming up that I'm really excited to share with you. So until then, but I hope you have a good day, night, morning, evening, wherever you are in the world, and I'll see you guys all again next year. Bye.